just before Obama was about to receive a briefing that contained no reference to significant Russian interference. That briefing was called off, and a high-level meeting of White House security officials was convened, after which Obama himself tasked them with a new assessment that would lean toward a more aggressive conclusion. The critical job of divining Russia's motives would be given to the CIA and Brennan.
Actually, the biggest attacker of the press in modern presidential history was Barack Obama, actually, who was extremely draconian.
Barack Obama on that.
As extremely draconian. And I was interested earlier.
Piers, I never defended
And I was
Barack
interested
Obama.
earlier because you were talking about how Trump put people in cages and all this kind of thing. Do you know who deported the most people in American presidential history?
Yes, Barack Obama, and I pulled him out for
Do you know
his time.
who also put lots of people in cages and separated families? Oh, that would be Obama.
Do you know who?
Megyn Kelly and Piers Morgan went beyond simply pointing fingers at Barack Obama. They tore apart the carefully polished image he had carried for years. Kelly cut straight through the uncertainty surrounding him with sharp precision, while Morgan's relentless blows stripped away the sparkle, leaving only plain mediocrity behind. Together, their critiques dismantled the calm exterior, the lofty speeches, and the carefully built reputation. What remained was not the visionary leader many believed him to be, but rather a master of appearances who had perfected the art of illusion.
In that paragraph, in the letters that were given to you, it just said a paragraph about homosexuality. This has made a lot of news, but it turns out that he was writing to his then girlfriend, this is back in the younger years, about how he had repeated fantasies of having sex with men. Now, what do you make of this? It's like, is Barack Obama a gay man? Is he a bisexual?
You ever seen that video?
No.
Pull that video up, because it's one of my favorite.
How many illegal immigrants did Barack Obama deport in his 8 years as president?
I don't know.
Have a guess.
No clue.
No clue. Interesting, right? You don't know.
I mean, I know it was a lot, but I don't know the exact number.
Have a guess.
I don't know.
The answer is over 3 million. He was known as deporter-in-chief by Mexicans.
Yes, and that was more than Trump.
Way more than
Yeah,
he
right
deported way more than any.
Don't forget to tap the bell icon and subscribe to the channel. For years, Barack Obama has shaped his public image into a flawless portrait of calm confidence, a legacy carefully wrapped in elegant speeches and glossy memoirs. Yet when Megyn Kelly steps in to challenge that image, the Golden Globe begins to look more like a trick of bad lighting. Throughout his career, Obama has leaned on appearances that sound profound but collapse under real scrutiny, grand promises left hanging, and a personal brand that functions less like a statesman's record and more like a lifestyle label. Kelly, armed with the sharp eye of someone who's seen plenty of political theater, tears straight through the facade. And then comes Trump. With his trademark bluntness, he cuts in on camera. Well, we'll play both of them in succession.
Here's Trump just now. He was just caught on camera saying, well, we'll play both of them in succession. Let her rip.
Which that you should be talking about is they caught President Obama absolutely cold, Tulsi Gabbard. What they did to this country in 2016, starting in 2016, but going up all the way going up to 2020 of the election. They tried to rig the election and they got caught. And there should be very severe consequences for that.
Many of Obama's supporters still hold on to the idea that he was the great political thinker of his time. Yet, as Megyn Kelly argues, much of that brilliance was more performance than substance. He wasn't the professor-in-chief people imagined. Instead, the teleprompter became his tool, and he often played the role of headliner at a political stage show. The dramatic pauses, the carefully measured rhythm, the polished delivery, it all looked less like leadership and more like theater. His calm composure fit the image of a politician who preferred to wait rather than make tough choices, one who prioritized appearances over actually solving problems.
Right. Well, I mean, you can bet everything that if Trump had some letter in which he talked about repeatedly fantasizing about having sex with men, it would be everywhere. To me, as a member of the media, this just seems like a media running cover for him on this is something that would be embarrassing potentially to him, and they don't want to.
Take foreign policy, for example, an area his supporters rarely want to revisit. Obama was hailed as the leader who would elevate America's global reputation. But what did that reset really look like? When Bashar al-Assad crossed the red line in Syria, it dissolved into nothing more than fading pink dust. His so-called pivot to Asia quickly lost direction, and the much-touted Iran deal eventually unraveled, not because it secured lasting peace, but because it gave him another stage for a Nobel Prize acceptance speech. Kelly isn't fooled by the clever wording that tries to mask failure as sophistication. To her, Obama often seemed less like a statesman and more like the PR manager of his own ego, determined to be remembered as a philosopher king rather than the politician he truly was.
David, just to pick up on the Jeremiah Wright thing, and I don't know Jeremiah Wright, never heard him referred to as Jerry. You know, we don't have to revisit that entire...
He's a lovely person.
Okay, he may be lovely, but I remember the goddamn America, the chickens that come home to roost on 9/11. Not lovely, not at all. And the reason people thought he was anti-Semitic was he said the reason that President Obama had not spoken with him in a long time was, quote, this is from him directly, "Them Jews ain't gonna let him talk to me. I told my baby daughter that he'd talk to me in 5 years when he's a lame duck."
One moment he was blasting Wall Street, and the next he was filling his cabinet with former Goldman Sachs insiders. He spoke out against lobbyists, yet quietly let them shape policy from behind the scenes. Transparency was his promise, but no administration before his went after whistleblowers with such intensity. Through the haze of nostalgia, these contradictions may seem softened, even appealing. But when Kelly strips away that haze, the record stands exposed, harsh, and undeniable under the bright light of reality.
Tablet interviewed Garrow, and boy, did it make headlines. Among them, Garrow, again, who did this comprehensive biography on Barack Obama, saying that the former president is as insecure as Donald Trump, calling Obama's own memoir a work of fiction, discussing Mr. Obama's apparent anti-Semitism, and as if that's not enough,
Obama cast himself as the voice of reason in a fractured America, the calm presence in culture wars, yet that composure often came at the cost of avoiding the very problems that demanded attention. His soaring words floated above racial tensions while neighborhoods beneath him erupted in anger. He wasn't the remedy, he was the symbol. And when symbols lose their weight, Kelly isn't impressed. She likens him to a politician who sold hope like a subscription, only to walk away when the trial period expired. What followed was the rise of a lifestyle empire. The man who once preached sacrifice now embraces the Hollywood life he once dismissed, signing podcast deals and Netflix contracts. With the energy of someone who never left the campaign trail, Kelly highlights the irony. A president who once condemned excess now reaps its rewards. That isn't statesmanship, she argues. It's brand management.
This was every word you can think of. They tried to steal the election. They tried to obfuscate the election. They did things that nobody's ever even imagined, even in other countries. You've seen some pretty rough countries. This man has seen some pretty rough countries, but you've never seen anything like that. And we have all of the documents. And from what Tulsi told me, she's got thousands of additional documents coming.
I mean, there he is on camera saying he thinks Barack Obama is guilty of treason. And that is a word Tulsi used too. It may be too dramatic, but I don't know. I mean, it certainly is a threat.
Then comes Piers Morgan, whose dry British wit cuts straight through the myth-making that's followed Obama across the Atlantic. In his blunt style, Piers paints Obama as the world's most successful salesman of mediocrity, a man who mastered the art of lowering expectations, then applauding himself for clearing the bar he set. While many bought into the illusion of brilliance, Piers sees only clever packaging. His take sharpens Kelly's critique. Where she exposes the contradictions, he reminds us that charm without real substance is nothing more than smoke dressed in a suit. Together, they're a striking pair, Kelly dissecting the inconsistencies with precision, Piers stripping away the gloss with cutting humor. What's left is not resentment, but clarity. The carefully staged calm, the polished cool, the crafted atmosphere, all of it starts to look flimsy once you realize how often it masked hesitation, squandered chances, and self-promotion. And that's just the beginning. The supposed grandeur of Obama's legacy starts to collapse like a flimsy stage prop under the glare of a spotlight as they pick apart his years in power.
There is a suggestion that Barack Obama and his government and the CIA under his tenure launched a chemical weapons attack on Syrian people. Do you seriously think that's what happened?
I'm not saying that Obama did it. Most of the time when the CIA does things, the presidents have no idea what the CIA is doing.
But do you think the CIA would launch a chemical weapons attack simply to smear Assad?
When the focus shifts to domestic policy, Morgan sharpens the critique even further. Obama's record here, they argue, is a patchwork of unfinished plans, broken promises, and programs that sounded inspiring in speeches but stumbled in reality. Take healthcare, for instance. The Affordable Care Act was meant to be his crown jewel, yet it turned into a patchwork effort stitched together by consultants and lobbyists, a last-minute attempt to produce something he could label as change. Instead of simplifying healthcare, it added layers of complexity, drove costs higher for many, and launched with a website rollout so clumsy, it felt like the government was running on dial-up. Kelly sums it up bluntly: branding disguised as progress. And then comes the economy. Yes, Obama inherited a financial disaster, but his solution poured taxpayer dollars into bailouts that kept afloat the very corporations responsible for the mess. Wall Street thrived while Main Street often felt abandoned. The leader who campaigned as a champion of the little guy ended up as the guardian angel of big business. Kelly doesn't let it slide. She points out the painful contradiction. When your policies enrich the powerful, your speeches about fairness ring hollow.
There's bombs in a calendar year in American history.
Oh, come on. President Barack Obama.
Barack Obama,
Yeah.
right? Including drone programs and so on, right? Who got elected in 08-09 on shutting down Guantanamo Bay? Because as a former lawyer, he believed it was an illegal institution.
President
Barack
Barack
Obama.
Obama, yeah.
What is still open today?
Guantanamo Bay?
Correct. Etc., etc., etc. I know that the general thing is Obama, angel, Trump, devil. But if you actually apply the scrutiny that we give Trump, put it this way, if Trump had deported 3 million people, you think you guys wouldn't know that?
One of Obama's clearest contradictions was his stance on power itself. He campaigned as the antidote to George W. Bush's heavy-handed executive authority, yet once in office, he embraced drone warfare and surveillance programs as if they were shiny new tools. The president who claimed to restore constitutional values instead normalized targeted killings without due process and expanded government spying to levels Orwell himself might have mocked. Kelly frames him as the leader who marketed himself as the thoughtful alternative, but quickly grew comfortable with unchecked authority and unwilling to give it up. For her, Obama was less a decisive commander and more a narrator of his own presidency. Every crisis became an excuse for another speech, another lecture, another sweeping reminder that he understood the problem. But recognition is not resolution. The more he spoke, the clearer it became. The story often came before the facts. It was like buying a self-help book only to realize the author hadn't actually applied the advice in his own life. Then comes the cult of personality. Obama wasn't just a politician. He became a brand. Hope and change shifted from rallying cries to marketable products, coffee table books, mugs, t-shirts, posters. His legacy looked less like governance and more like a curated lifestyle feed where carefully staged images took precedence over measurable progress. Kelly underscores the irony. Bold rhetoric that promised inspiration but left the country with motivation that felt hollow, uplifting in tone, yet empty in substance.
More fuel on the fire that there's a potential, maybe a divorce or some sort of rockiness going on in the Obamas' relationship. They both posted these mirrored, very choreographed Valentine's Day messages on X, but he was just seen at an LA, the basketball team, the Clippers, thank you, game without her. And then on Tuesday, he was spotted eating out at a fancy dinner in Sherman Oaks with both daughters, Malia and Sasha, but again, no Michelle, according to TMZ. So,
I think they seem to be soft launching their divorce. I mean, if it were the opposite and all of these rumors are flying, wouldn't they make a concerted effort to be seen together? Or just absolutely issue a statement saying there's no truth to these rumors?
Piers Morgan returns with his trademark bluntness, poking fun at the way Obama supporters still cling to his image like a childhood keepsake. To Morgan, it's almost comical, grown adults holding on to the myth of greatness despite the glaring signs of mediocrity. He argues that fans often confuse charm for wisdom, as if delivering flawless lines on camera somehow equals solving real problems. It's like cheering for a weatherman who nailed the forecast, while the storm outside is already flooding the streets. Morgan's candor cuts through the admiration, reminding viewers that charisma doesn't balance budgets, fix crises, or strengthen international ties. Yes, Obama was untouchable as a cultural figure, someone whose mere presence could command silence and whose image became larger than life. But behind that aura lies a record scattered with missed chances, hollow victories, and deliberate avoidance of hard decisions. He was a president more preoccupied with protecting his legacy than addressing the urgent needs of the moment. And that's where the roast lands hardest, when the curtain is pulled back, exposing the reality beneath the polished exterior of a man who built his career on appearances.
Hang on, hold on, finish yet. Do you know who dropped the most bombs in a calendar year? Oh, Barack Obama. Do you know who ran illegal drone programs that killed thousands of innocent people? Oh, Barack Obama. Do you know who actually campaigned in 08-09 to shut down Guantanamo Bay because as a former lawyer, he knew it was an illegal torture chamber? Oh, it's still open. So I'm afraid, Eddie, your revisionism
this is the problem, Piers.
of Saint Barack against evil Donald doesn't...
Kelly turns her attention to Obama's life after leaving office, and the picture she paints is far from modest. Instead of stepping back quietly, he and Michelle launched a full-blown media empire, securing multi-million-dollar deals with book publishers Spotify and Netflix. The man who once warned against excess now beams while cashing in on the very fame he built. Nothing illegal about it, of course, but it shatters the image of selfless duty. He wasn't the reluctant leader called to serve. He was a star setting the stage for his second act. For supporters who believed in a movement of change, watching their leader slip comfortably into Hollywood was, as Kelly calls it, a classic hook and switch. And he hasn't exactly disappeared from politics either. His influence still hangs heavy over Democratic candidates, his voice still echoed in debates, his presence still shaping the narrative. The idea of Obama as the wise elder statesman makes Kelly laugh. To her, he's more like the high school quarterback who keeps showing up at alumni games, eager to relive the glory days. And as long as the self-branded symbol of progress keeps holding the spotlight, moving forward becomes nearly impossible.
Several things, Megyn. Both Alex McNair, who was Barack's girlfriend of 1981 to 1983, and Genevieve Cook, who was his girlfriend in New York in 84, 85, both shared with me all the letters that Barack had written them back then. Barack was very much someone who was sending handwritten letters.
Megyn Kelly and Piers Morgan's dissection of the image is effective precisely because it resists the performative outrage that dominates much of today's commentary. Instead of engaging in partisan brawling, they strip the subject down with a clinical precision that leaves little room for emotional defense. Their approach is akin to a cultural autopsy, where each claim of progress or promise of hope is held against the harsh light of hindsight. The glossy veneer that once dazzled audiences, campaign slogans, staged photo ops, carefully crafted speeches, unravels into a sequence of contradictions and half measures. What once felt like history in motion is now revealed as a masterclass in branding, and this is what makes their critique sting. It challenges not just the individuals in question, but the audience that bought into the illusion. If transformation was merely packaging, then the voters were not participants in change, but consumers of a product. Kelly and Morgan's methodical dismantling forces us to reconsider whether the grand narrative of hope and progress was ever rooted in reality, or whether it was simply advertising brilliance destined, like all marketing, to fade once the campaign was over.